So DevOps, development and operations and development. It sounds a little bit like the Capulets and Montagues from Romeo and Juliet. You know, families that are arch enemies that hate each other and blame each other. Or if you're not a fan of Shakespeare, who of you have seen the movie The Godfather? Very good movie. And if there's Marlon Brando's version of Michael Corleone, if ever there's a head of IT operations, that's the guy. He protects his family and he protects his assets, and it's his way or the highway. You know, that's the kind of guy you want to control your production environment, to make sure that nothing gets in there. But that's really only the way that IT sees DevOps, is there's two strong families that blame each other, that hate each other, that keeps on fighting about things. If you ask business to have a bit of an outside-in look at DevOps and the IT department, they'll probably describe it more like Bonnie and Clyde. You know, they're a team, and they are both criminals. You know, they're both equally to blame for the fact that there's constantly this IT glitch or this project delay that is causing us headaches. And that is keeping us from delivering on the promises we made to our customers. And it's keeping us from executing our strategy. So if you're a fan of the Godfather franchise, then you know there are 5 families. And it's very loosely based on the New York crime families of the 1930s. There were also 5 families. It's the very well-known Corleones. There's the Tartaglias, the Straccis, the Cunios, and the Barcinis. Nice names that you feel you can say from your stomach. And in today's modern businesses, we also have those 5 families. We call them the executive, business operations, finance and audit, sales and marketing, and information management. And what we see in modern businesses is that these 5 families tend to operate as 5 different units of the organization, that they constantly look at each other and blame each other for the fact that things go wrong, instead of getting together and working together as one family. And that's what the DevOps and Agile movement wants us to realize, is that we need to move past this 5 families that compete with each other into an area where it's one family that's driving the shared goal of the organization. Now, we've been very privileged to work with a great organization and be part of their journey to get onto this Agile journey and Agile and DevOps train and become this one family. Bidvest Bank is a great bunch of people. Since we've started engaging with them quite a number of years ago, we could see that they were really like family. They were treating each other like family, and there was a great interaction between business and IT already. But they wanted more. They wanted to do more. Their core operational system, Merlin, was end of life. But this system touches on almost every process in the bank. And being a very innovative bank, and they're on a rapid expansion strategy, having a core operational system that does not respond to the needs of business, that is end of life and needs to be replaced, is a serious problem for their strategy. So they knew that they had to make a plan there. The bank had 3 main objectives that they wanted to achieve with the project. The first was to replace the current system with more mainstream technology that would allow them to easily adapt to the business needs and be more responsive to the market. The second one was to catch up with this list of business needs that was being put on the back burner because the system couldn't respond. And the third one was actually the wow moment for them, was to use this project to learn and transform the business into an Agile and DevOps world. And what that would give them is the ability to shorten the duration of that concept to cash cycle so that they are better at responding to the needs and the changes in the market. So what we did not anticipate was the reality of this two-speed world that we would encounter. The real world of this bimodal process that needed to be managed while you still maintain and enhance the existing system while building and replacing it. And that two-speed world is really what we want to share with you today. I'd like to, one of the key elements of such a project is that collaboration between business and IT. And I'd like to invite Brett, the executive for sales and distribution, to share the business journey with us.
Good morning, everybody. I'm now going to be probably proof that females can't really multitask, because I'm going to try and drive slides and talk at the same time, so please bear with me. I'm here this morning to give, as Peter said, a business perspective into the journey that we've been on for the last, I think it's about 3 years now. As Peter said, essentially when we started this journey, we were very conscious that we had lagged as a bank behind in the world of IT and investing in technology. So we were conscious of the fact that we were playing huge catch-up against a backdrop of rapidly changing technology. I mean, I have worked in banking for more years than I'm going to share with you this morning, but suffice it to say that when I joined a bank a long time ago, telegraphic transfers were sent by little old ladies with yellow tape with holes punched in it. We now have Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay, Ripple, blockchain, you name it, we have it. And every time you open your IT journal, there's a new solution out there. So what we knew was, with huge apologies to Stephen Covey, that we could not possibly begin with the end in mind, because if we were embarking even on a 3-year journey, the destination that we would get when we got there wouldn't be where we wanted to go. So we had to have an approach that catered for thinking and reacting on the fly. Right, as they call it, death by 1,000 cuts, no pressure. Which brings me on to my next point. And if you work for Bidvest, this is always the question that you are faced with. We have a financial director called Tennis, who's not in the audience, so I'm safe today. And in his world, the business case prevails. So as the business owner, I was conscious that we, as the project team, and me in particular, were responsible for delivering business value. I was reminded at the beginning, and have been continually reminded throughout the project, that in order to justify the investment in the system, we had to add, I forget the exact percentage, but between 20 and 25% to the top line, no pressure. And on implementation, the depreciation charge would start to hit the income statement, which was a very, very sharp lesson in remembering always to deliver business benefit at every step in the journey. At the same time, bringing me to my next point, hopefully, you have to keep running business as usual. Again, I work for Bidvest Bank, which is part of Bidvest Group. And if you've ever listened to our leader, Brian Joffe, talk, you'll have heard of the concept of ROFI, by which all Bidvesters live and die. And essentially what that means is you sweat the assets and you get a return. So that is what you have to do while you are developing. Our financial director calls it changing the engine while the airplane is in flight. And a lot of the time, that is exactly how it feels. So there have been a few tense moments along the way, but I'm happy to say that we have been able to balance things most of the time. Because the other thing that you also have to contend with is business owners who identify opportunities to which you have to respond because you need, using the cliches, to respond to quick wins, to get the low-hanging fruit, always being conscious that there is a longer-term plan. And the trick is not to let the short-term objective and the quick win deflect you from the longer-term plan. Always being conscious, as I've said, that you have to adapt. So where you think you're going might not be where you wind up, but it certainly will be better. So that, as I say, has been the balancing act that we've been on. I'm going to talk a little bit now about the how we have got this right. I mean, not that we get it right all the time, but hopefully we get most things right most of the time. And that was really about laying the groundwork for success and preparing the business to be receptive to the agile approach that we wanted to adopt. First and foremost, on the basis that definitely it's the tone at the top that matters, we had to get executive buy-in. We sent all our executives on agile training, and what was very important for everybody to really take ownership of was the fact that there was no long-term blueprint. You couldn't have a step-by-step plan with a fixed scope, a fixed budget, and nice, neat milestones with an end date, at which point we'd all be finished and have a party. Because in fact, for me, the lesson about all of this is that the journey never ends. I mean, that is what it is about continuous improvement. You never finish, because you can't. Because the minute you get finished, you get left behind, and you definitely don't want to do that. So that was a very important part of the whole groundwork process. The second part, and I am a lawyer by training, so that for me was another important aspect of the project, was really about understanding the need to contract differently. Again, as there couldn't be a master plan, there couldn't really be an all-encompassing, all-purpose contract that had very finite deliverables and, again, a fixed budget, milestones against, progress payments on X, Y, and Z date, because that clearly wouldn't work. The contract had to reflect the fact that we were working in sprints, and obviously there had to be discipline around the sprint. You had to make sure that there were milestones and deliverables within a sprint, but sprint 4 might not look like you thought it would by the time you'd finish sprint 3. And we had to make sure that the documentation reflected that. And you couldn't hold people accountable for stuff that, quite frankly, would be beyond their control because your own plans might have changed. So that was an important learning and certainly a big difference in approach for me. The third thing, which is probably for me one of the most important things, I mean, again, given the background from which Bidvest Bank had come, was really about the importance of involving people from all aspects of the business from day one and all along the journey. Historically, technology had been very much in the hands of IT. We kind of told them what they want, they delivered a set of requirements, we signed them off, if we'd read them maybe, and then they delivered what they were going to deliver at the end, and that might or might not be what they wanted, and if it wasn't what we wanted, we'd blame them. A bit like the Italian families, I forget which one I belong to. Clearly that wouldn't work. So it was very important that business people would be involved for many reasons. Firstly, that IT could have insight into the real needs of businesses, because I've learned from many past bad experiences in my life that no matter how thoroughly you think you have scoped a set of requirements, you can never cater for everything. You've got to have people involved along the way to say, hey, you didn't think of that, or this is now something that the market wants, you have to bring it in. So that for me was really, really important, and not least because of the whole change in approach to the way all businesses work, which is really around optimizing a customer experience. You have to then involve people who deal with customers, who understand customer frustrations, and real users, who know or who have to use the system every day. I mean, I never have to use the system mercifully. It's probably a good thing. But it's very important that people who do are involved in designing it, in testing it, and designing how it will be implemented in the real bank with real life customers. And I think that, for me, was probably one of the most critical success factors in the project as it's evolved. I'm now going to hand over to Russell Fogg, our intrepid CIO, who is going to share with you some of the trials and tribulations of our journey so far. Thank you very much.
Morning, everyone. As Brett has given you her insight from a business executive perspective, I'm going to just try to give you some insight in terms of what my experience from an IT team perspective has been during the journey with EOH in terms of Microsoft services. The project for us clicked off with very clear vision and goals that created the right landscape for our team to work in. But I guess, like everybody always says, that the devil is in the detail. Because whilst we can stand here and have a presentation about how things should ideally work, we all know that once we're back at the office and we're dealing with culture and personalities, things can be very different. The way we started and we kicked off this project from a sourcing type perspective, because Bidvest Bank is a very small bank in the context of all the other big players, the big 4 or 5, we decided to employ a co-source model, where the project team is essentially made up of people from both Bidvest Bank and EOH. We shared responsibility for developers, the testers, business analysts, and EOH provided the program management, the functional architects, the product owner, enterprise architect, subject matter experts, and the management of the interaction with the other bank functions like operations, training, change management, and third-party vendors. Another key thing for us in terms of the co-sourcing arrangement was the location. Initially, when we started with the project, EOH wanted to try and work from their premises, but I think in terms of how we went about it, about sourcing the actual development on site at our corporate office, was critical to the efficient functioning of the team, because that basically meant that we were close to business. So there was no scheduling of meetings, driving anywhere, and we could just pull in the business owners or product owners as we needed to. And I think also in terms of running agile, that also helped us as well in terms of being co-located. So what we did, like Lionel mentioned earlier, in terms of all the sticky notes on the walls and things like that, we secured a large project room that fitted everybody in. We recently relocated them because we are 3.5 years into the project, so the team is about 25 people big at the moment. And yes, it's dedicated. There's whiteboards, scrum boards, projectors, and everything else they need to basically run the Agile project. Because we changed to an Agile process, sorry, I'm being like Brett. Because we changed to an Agile process, we needed to make sure that everybody understood the process and their roles. So every team member, including the business roles, was sent on Agile Bootcamp, and that included the executives as well. And those 2 executives you saw earlier, which was our FD and our MD, where the principles of Lean and the Scrum methodology was taught. But I think the real battlegrounds of the real teaching happened actually in our staircoms, which I'll get to a little bit later. So in this triad of people, processes, and tools, we placed a lot of emphasis on people and processes. It was important for both parties that the combination of people in the team worked. There were a few times where we found that a person did just not fit the team. That was my job. I just had a nose for somebody who wasn't going to fit into the team, and I would tell them on the first day. And inevitably it worked out like. But as the level of trust between the bank and EOH matured, the discussions became easier as we both understood the importance of the right fit for the success of the project. During the 3.5 year journey, we've had staff churn, especially on the development team. Typically within Bidvest Bank, we don't churn a lot of staff. So I've seen a lot of staff churn during the course of this project. Unfortunately, quite a lot of the developers to immigration, and other guys just building their careers. So they're starting out early, and it's just basically time for them to move on to a new challenge. For Agile, the ideal is to have a consistent, dedicated, self-organizing team. This works well if a team remains stable and they know each other's strengths and weaknesses. So every time we lost a member of the team and we had to replace them, we lost productivity, and it affects the team's velocity in terms of work completed. It also remains an important responsibility of the team and organizational leadership to motivate the team and keep them engaged to ensure team stability. This has been a journey to achieve transformation. So as I mentioned before, in terms of the IT space, I wouldn't have called the Bidvest Bank IT team a pure waterfall environment. The environment was just too small already to be able to run pure waterfall. So I think already we were running some sort of hybrid model. There's a couple of terms some people would call it in terms of how informal it was, but it worked for us. It's worked for us for many years. So we had to transform IT. So one of my mandates when we engaged with EH, and the reasons why we took EH on in terms of a partner and and going agile, was to basically take that IT team of mine and create a framework or an environment in terms of agile, so that when we disengage from EOH, that a lot of that sort of behavior and culture and way of working was ingrained within the team. And I think 3.5 years later, we are quite a way down the journey, and it's working pretty well. So we've got, the good news is that the business users are very excited about the system. They're starting to see it. There's a lot of pressure on us from the business to actually go live. I think Peter alluded to, somebody said earlier, when you have people within the executive where they just say, you will go live. I've had that. This is going to be, for us, a rollout where we're taking a decentralized infrastructure and we're centralizing it from a infrastructure perspective, so there's a lot of risks around that. But I think we've really created a very fantastic product. But we know now that the business wants us to get on and to launch this platform, and we need to do it quickly and adapt the changes in the business strategy. This project has laid the foundation to enabling a mature DevOps process, but it has come with its pain. And I just wanted to touch on one last point, and that's the pain I believe has come, and we fought the battles in our steering committee, where at our level within IT, we've seen the benefits of agile, but you still have an old-fashioned thinking or mentality from key executives who want you to deliver an agile project on a set date and a set time. And it's a very, very difficult thing to change culturally and from a mindset perspective. But we're getting there, and we should make some progress. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Russell and Brett. So we actually did some other projects as well with the bank during the past few years. So yes, on a 3.5-year project, there were a few steps in between and short jumps that we took to get to the end. But in that process, with the learnings that the team have picked up, we did some other projects as well on shorter timelines that are already in production. We decided those went too smoothly for a good case study, because the real meat is in learning from the challenges and the lessons. So what is the call to action that we would like to leave you with? It is this: if you want to gain competitive advantage through innovation, then you need innovative systems. And to get that, you need the processes and tools that enable you to be flexible, to adjust to the needs and the changes in business, to not have too strict, too formal, too process-driven plans that is your primary measure of success. You need to be flexible and have all the processes in place to allow you to adapt to what the business needs. The big thing for us is Agile and DevOps allows you to be more flexible, but it's not an IT change. This is an organizational change.